Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be episode 105 for you guys today. This episode, of course, will be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into episode 105. Starting off with the first segment of the episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the 2023 NBA Finals thus far. So right now we are seeing the number one seeded reigning Western Conference champions in the Denver Nuggets taking on the eighth seeded reigning Eastern Conference champions in the Miami Heat. The series is actually tied 1-1 after the first two games of the NBA Finals. So first I'm going to give my game one summary, and then I'm going to give you guys my game two summary of what took place and transpired in last night's game. So in game one of the NBA Finals that took place Thursday, the Nuggets got the win. They dominated the Miami Heat. They dominated and dissected them, and played their brand of basketball, the way how they have won during this past season, the way that the Denver Nuggets have won, and they did it in dominant fashion at home a game one against the Miami Heat. I believe that the 9 days of rest that the Denver Nuggets got to have the luxury of having after sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals was a factor in this game. The Nuggets had 9 days of rest. Meanwhile, the Miami Heat were going up and down, flying from Miami to Boston, battling the Boston Celtics all the way down to the finish. That series going all the way to Game 7. And they only had a few days of rest, having to fly from Boston straight to Denver, not getting a chance to go back to Miami before playing the Denver Nuggets on the road. So I think that was one of the key factors in that game rest for the Denver Nuggets. And they looked very fresh in that game one at home against the Miami Heat. But another reason why they beat the Miami Heat in game one, the two-man game of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray were on full display in game one. The duo was putting up big numbers. Jamal Murray had 26 points, 10 assists, and 6 rebounds. Going with Nikola Jokic, who had 27 points, 14 rebounds, and 14 assists and 10 rebounds, having a triple-double in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I do believe that those two have been the best duo in basketball when it comes to NBA playoffs this year. Yes, we've seen dynamic duos in the playoffs this year of Tatum and Brown, Booker and Durant. You could throw LeBron and Anthony Davis in the conversation based on how far they went, Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, but there has not been a cohesive, consistent duo in the NBA playoffs the way how Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic have been consistent throughout the playoffs. And it showed in full display in Game 1. The Heat in Game 1 had a terrible shooting performance. They shot the ball 39 for 96 from the field as a team and only got 2 free throw attempts. I thought that was a big reason why the Heat dropped Game 1 on the road in Denver. You got to be more physical in the NBA playoffs. Obviously, the Denver Nuggets are the bigger team. I thought in Game 1, the Miami Heat should have been way more physical, driving into the paint, going to the free throw line. Only having 2 free throw attempts in an NBA Finals game is absolutely insane. They were not trying to be physical. They were trying to shoot their way to victory, and it just wasn't the recipe to knock off the Denver Nuggets in Game 1. To me, the Denver Nuggets are already the bigger team with Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. They got size on that roster compared to the Miami Heat, who's a much smaller team. You need to get those guys in foul trouble and be aggressive and earn some points at the charity spot at the free throw line. I thought they failed to capitalize that in Game 1. And so moving on to Game 2, last night was an absolutely great game. It was a dogfight from start to finish, and it felt like you were in a fight. The way how the Miami Heat started off on that big explosive run, then the Denver Nuggets came back on their own explosive run, and after those explosive runs, it was back and forth through the whole entire game. But the Miami Heat found a way to survive the dogfight, winning that game 111-108 last night. The Miami Heat came into Game 2 with a lot of urgency, a lot to prove after being dominated and dismantled in Game 1. And they had a lot to prove. Eric Spoelstra had a different game plan. This team looked rejuvenated, looked like a whole completely different team than what they did in Game 1. One of the key factors I thought was actually bringing Caleb Martin off the bench and actually starting Kevin Love, a power forward that has the NBA Finals experience. I thought that was a great job that Eric Spoelstra did since Caleb Martin struggled in Game 1 to bring your veteran player Kevin Love and insert him into the starting lineup. But the Miami Heat played very well offensively. Players like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and Duncan Robinson all stepped up big last night for the Miami Heat. And all three of those players hit those shots when it was time to hit those shots. When the Miami Heat needed that offensive power from those three guys, those guys were there, available, knocking down the shots that you would expect them to hit. Because all three of those guys are really great shooters, and they all contributed into the last night's win. The coaching displays for Erik Spoelstra was on full display, offensively and defensively. I like the way how Erik Spoelstra would mix it up. The Miami Heat throughout the playoffs, if you guys have watched the playoffs, really if you watched them defensively over the last few years, Erik Spoelstra's defense, he loves to run a 2-3 zone. Last night he mixed it up and did a great job defensively. Miami Heat went back and forth for man-to-man coverage, and they went to a 2-3 zone. I think that was very successful for them, and I think they need to go on that path defensively for the rest of the playoffs. But the coaching, I was very proud of Erik Spoelstra. His coaching last night proves that he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. But the Miami Heat also, great night offensively. They shot the ball for 49% from the field compared to the Denver Nuggets, who shot 39% from the field. But to me, the deciding factor of this game, of Game 2, it was really decided in the fourth quarter. The Miami Heat trailed by 8 points heading into the fourth quarter, and they outscored the Denver Nuggets 36-25 in the final quarter of the ball game. And I think that was the deciding factor of how the Miami Heat stole this win on the road against the Denver Nuggets in Game 2. And the Miami Heat are the first team in the playoffs this year to beat the Denver Nuggets at home. If you look at through all the playoff series that the Denver Nuggets, all the oppositions that the Denver Nuggets have faced in the playoffs thus far, when the gentlemen swept the Timberwolves beat them at home. When they beat the Phoenix Suns in 6, the Suns still beat them 2 games at home. And the Lakers couldn't even get a win against them. So this is the first time that they lost at home, and the Miami Heat have found a way to win in the high altitude culture to win a game on the road in Denver, Colorado. They did a good job containing Nikola Jokic, and hear me out. If you guys say they didn't contain him, Nikola Jokic had 41 points. Where they contained him to the point where Nikola Jokic and took away Nikola Jokic's best attribute, and that's getting his teammates involved. We have seen Nikola Jokic get his team. When Nikola Jokic gets his teammates involved and he only has to shoot 3 to 5 times a game, that's when the Denver Nuggets are most dangerous, when he gets his players involved. And the Miami Heat found a way to only make Nikola Jokic basically beat them last night. That is the reason why he had 41 points. But when you take away the passing abilities of Nikola Jokic throughout this postseason, when Nikola Jokic has 40 points or more, and he's not getting his teammates involved, not having a high number in assists, in the assist column, they're 0-3 in the playoffs, and the Miami Heat found a good way to make Nikola Jokic only beat them instead of getting his players involved like Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. He's been MIA. I don't know what the heck's going on with him in this series. If the Nuggets are gonna pull this off, they need more offensive for him to contribute more. Jamal Murray, they contained him pretty well last night. So I think that was the best way to beat the Denver Nuggets, is not allowing Nikola Jokic to get his teammates involved. But with that being said, the series, like I said in the beginning of the segment, the series is tied 1-1. We have a series. And the next two games, Game 3, Game 4, are heading to South Beach in Miami. The Miami Heat culture is going to be absolutely happy to have the Miami Heat back in the NBA Finals. Yes, the Miami Heat were just in the finals a few years ago in the bubble, but this is the true first time in nearly a decade that the Miami Heat will have a home crowd in the NBA Finals. So don't be surprised when the Miami Heat steal 2 games, Game 3, Game 4 at home. We'll see, but I think the X factor, the next big thing that could happen in this series, is Tyler Hero coming back. I think that would be a huge addition to the team if they could get him back for either Game 3 or Game 4. Yes, a lot of you guys out there might say, well, the Miami Heat have gotten this far without Tyler Hero in their rotation. He's been out with a broken hand. Why would you add him back to the mix? Erik Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA. He's very, very smart. He knows what he's doing. And if Tyler Hero is ready to go, he could give him a small amount of minutes. He doesn't have to put him back in the starting lineup. He doesn't have to affect minutes for Caleb Martin or other guys that have stepped up like Duncan Robinson since the injury. He can assert Tyler Hero in little by little to see what works. And if Tyler Hero gets going, I mean, the shooters never forget how to shoot a basketball. It's like riding a bike. Tyler Hero is that guy that can get back to the game. I get back into the flow of game. the flow of the game, and I think he would be just fine. I think that you just have to minimize his minutes for him coming back, and if he contributes big time, then you increase his number, increase his minutes, and then you take it there. But I think Tyler Hero would be a great addition to the way how the Miami Heat just came off of that shooting performance in Game 2 on the road against the Denver Nuggets. So we'll see how this series plays out, but those are my thoughts on the NBA Finals thus far.